Welcome to our 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific CE course today. This is Jim Gerson from CareStack. I'm one of the sponsors, joined by Jeff Daly of Darby Dental. And you're in the right place. We're going to wait here as people join the program. And good news, intentionally, your microphone and camera are in the off position, but we don't want this to be a one-way communication today. Dr. Roman would love for you to interact with the program, and you can do that through a couple different ways. I see someone's already raised their hand. That's awesome. You can raise your hand. I can try to unmute you. That's very difficult, but I'd recommend that you use the Q&A feature, please. So Dr. Roman, if it's all right with you, we'll wait about another 30 seconds and then get started.
That sounds good. I'm going to just raise my hand physically since everybody else is raising their hands. I kind of like it.
It's awesome.
Just do it like this. It's kind of like raising the roof a little bit. So it's sort of a warm-up activity to get us started. So
it is. They got like I've never seen 4 hands raised this early. So maybe it's just because people are excited for today's topic, which is great.
Yeah, and before you introduce Jeff and Dan, just a shameless plug for everybody. I literally yesterday placed my first Darby Dental order, like dream come true. So it could not. I didn't even think about that we were doing a webinar today. Man, full circle, guys.
What timing, right?
Golly.
So welcome everyone. Let's get started. We've got a really good attendance so far. So let's kick this thing off. Jim Gerson here from CareStack. You're in the right place for our program today with Dr. Eric Roman, engaging millennial team members. And we're gonna get right into that here in a moment. A couple quick things. You know, Dan and Hall from CareStack's here, Jeff Daly from Darby's here. They can attest this. I'm not gonna hold you hostage. At 58 minutes after the hour, I'm gonna give you the code so you can go on to CE Zoom, log in, and get your CE credit. We take awarding CE credit very seriously here at CareStack and Darby. So I'll make sure to provide that to you at 58 minutes. If you're here and you think you're gonna get that code in the next 5 minutes, you're wasting your time. I just wanna be upfront and candid with everybody. So let's get started. We don't want this to be one-way discussion. Please use the Q&A feature if you have any questions along the way. So Jeff Daly from Darby, I'm gonna turn it over for you so you can give a quick introduction on Darby, please.
Sure. Thanks, Jim, and thanks everybody for making time for today's presentation. Darby is again excited to to partner with CareStack to help provide Dr. Roman's presentation today, focused around how to engage a cohort that I'm a part of, the millennial team members. The shameless plug for Darby is what you may already know about us is that we partner with our customers to help keep their dental supply costs down. Over the past 10 years or so, we've been focused on building out a suite of solutions to help resolve our customers face the challenges that they tell us they face on a daily basis. So, you know, kind of timely, one of those solutions is Darby Tech Force, which helps our practices with their IT practice needs. And for anybody that's been following the news, it's particularly appropriate given the hack of the Colonial Oil line. So, you know, ransomware and hacks are a growing reality in the IT landscape, and they're growing at an alarming rate. So if you'd like to discuss how we can help safeguard your valuable practice data or any of the other services that we provide, please feel free to give any one of our team members a call.
Thank you, Jeff. That's a great correlation to today's world. And by the way, our next program that's upcoming here in a few weeks will be focused on that topic, right, Jeff?
Exactly. Yeah, we'll have some resident experts to help practices figure out what they can be doing to help secure their practice data and help hopefully ward off a ransomware attack.
So a quick word on CareStack before we turn it over to Dr. Roman. CareStack is a 100% cloud-based solution for the complete management of the dental practice. And we typically work with 2 types of offices. The first is ambitious, growing, having success. They see technology as giving them that edge, and they just don't know how to get there. They need a little bit of help. And the second, unfortunately, have been frustrated and aggravated by managing a multitude of different software subscriptions for things like patient forms, electronic claims, eligibility, online scheduling, reputation management. The list goes on and on. And these practices are just aggravated and sometimes sleepless nights for managing 5 to 6 to 7 subscriptions to run their dental practice. And they just had enough. So if you fall into one of those 2 buckets, do us a favor. At the end of this program, after you've received your CE credits, my colleague Dan Hall is going to stay on, and we're going to do a quick 15-minute demo of CareStack and introduce you to it. So you're welcome to stay on. So that's the commercial component of today's program. I'm very excited. Dr. Roman, can you hear us loud and clear on your end?
So loud and so clear, Jim. Thank you, guys. It's kind of funny that we're talking about future stuff today. Now we're talking about future people, right?
There you go. You got it.
Awesome.
And so we're going to turn it over to you. So you have the lectern, the virtual lectern. So please take it away.
Well, I am virtually grateful, and I am excited that I'm honestly excited that anybody's here today. I'd be really honest with you. You know what? I have learned over the course of the past couple of years that people sometimes don't want to talk about this topic. I'll be really honest. We had terms inside of our advertisements about the four-letter word that has more than four letters called management. And we talked about millennials. We talked about how angry it makes people sometimes. Kind of crazy stuff. So I'm really honored that everybody's here. And I actually, not only do I honor you for being here, but I'm going to make you a commitment that we're going to create some serious value for you inside of your life. And it does not matter what role you exist in inside of a practice. By the way, Jim, did you have a little poll that you wanted to run at some point in there?
I do. I'm going to go ahead and put it up right now.
Thanks, Jim.
And I promise that I'll keep the polls open. I won't make any political jokes.
Yeah.
But I'll give people a few minutes to put their responses in. Thank you for
Jim, interject at some point once people answer. But what we want to know, we just want to get a sense of what typical role you guys are in. And I understand other team member could mean like 6,481 different roles inside of a dental practice. So I appreciate and honor whatever you put there. It could be an executive in charge of marketing for a dental company or a dental group. It could be an associate dentist maybe considers themselves to be an other team member. So thanks, Jim, for popping that puppy up. Sure. And it is good to get a sense of who we have here today. And hopefully, as we go through this, we're gonna talk about why, regardless, we have more other team members than we do owners and managers. Other team members, I think, will really appreciate what we're talking about today. So here's the thing. Before we dig a little bit deeper, I want to tell you a little story about my early years of practice operations. As a dentist, I'll be honest, feel free to raise your hand if at some point in your life you've dreaded the process of doing performance reviews, right? I dreaded them. As a provider of them, I dreaded them. As a receiver of them, I actually kind of dreaded them myself. I actually remember, well, what do you do when you hate doing stuff like that? Well, I'm a dentist, so I hired an office manager, right? Isn't this the logical thing to do? I paid her an extraordinary amount of money, which actually was probably money that I didn't have at the time, but I needed somebody to manage these activities, right? And yet somehow crap all came back to me still, time and time again. I remember I was in a root canal one day and my office manager's waiting at the door to the operatory and knocks on the edge, Dr. Roman. And it turns out I needed to have a difficult conversation with a hygienist that wasn't showing up on time. Like, who's been there? We've all been there at one point or another. And it might've been you that was the one that wasn't showing up on time. There's reasons for that. We're okay. But she's knocking on the door telling me that. And I'm thinking, I actually almost wanted to break a file. I thought if I could do something in this root canal that would keep me from having to go have that conversation with a hygienist, it would bring me joy. And so I sat there and I was like, oh, yeah. I'll be, give me like 15 minutes. It gets really hard. It's a really hard root canal. And it probably only took me about 5 more minutes. But as I got done, I got up and did I go directly to the office manager's office? No, I did not. I walked back to my office and I made a decision I'll never forget. I grabbed my keys and I got in my car and I went home. And I was only about 5 minutes out of the office before the office manager called me and was like, what the crap? Like, Roman, where are you at? I needed you in here for this meeting. And I was, oh yeah. My wife called, like, one of our kids, like something happened. They're like sick and I made up some stupid excuse. What I'm illustrating is the fact that's how much I loved the process of having difficult conversations and managing my team. And I've been doing this with dental practices and other dentists and dental teams for years now. And I recognize that my reaction there was not alone. So, feel free to talk about in the chat if you kind of feel my challenge there about how difficult this can be, or if you, like me, have chosen to maybe at some point abdicate responsibility for that process of management, performance review, leadership, whatever it is. We have a challenge though, guys. And what I realized early in my career was that I had a vision for a company that was bigger than me. I had a vision for a company that would be continually growing. I had a vision for a company that wasn't just a single dentist and one small team. And I recognized that for me to get to that vision, somewhere along the line, I was going to have to figure out this management thing. And if you guys think about it inside your own lives right now, we all have visions for our lives, right? We are all the visionaries and the managers for our own lives. We all have a vision for a future that's different than where we are right now. And honestly, the reality is people are probably a component of your vision, whether you like it or not. The key from here to where we're going there is those people and figuring out how to have strong, powerful relationships. So today, what are we going to talk about? I got 5 little things up here on the screen. My plan is to touch all the bases. We're going to talk about management of the past versus what the management of the future needs to look like. And if I haven't already done it, we're going to talk more about how, regardless of your role inside a dental practice or even in your life, this is your problem that has to be addressed for you to get to where you want to go. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the pains that we're all experiencing and not addressing this issue on a daily basis. And some of the pains may surprise you. Other things, we're going to talk about the origin of human resources as an industry. We're going to talk about why what's been going on for the past 50 years isn't working for our millennial generations. And last but not least, I'm going to give you the solution. I've developed a very simple process with my teams called the CMC approach. And we're going to talk about what that is and how you can use it with your team members. So I hope this sounds like a good strategy because this is our plan. One last thing, just a little bit of a ground rule before we keep going through this today. When we say the term millennial, right? Technically, millennial usually refers to people that are in that Gen X category, of which theoretically I was the first one. So I can talk trash about millennials because I am one. As you can tell by my hair, I have long hair and I haven't shaved much lately. So that's like 90% millennial. I actually have an essential oil dispenser over here in the corner of my room also. If you could see that, you would know I'm like all the way there. But when I'm saying millennials today, I hope you would appreciate that I'm not really just talking about that Gen X quotient. I'm talking about what we've seen in the Gen X, Gen Y, and Gen Z. Essentially, anybody born after 1980 is very different behaviorally than the generations inside the dental industry and in the world up until that point. So we're going to use the term millennial as an inclusive one. If you have a better recommendation that's more efficient, I'd love for you to give it to me as we go along. So that's what we mean when we say millennial. One last ground rule, I am also going to talk about management a lot. If you're like me and your body gets like bad chills every time somebody says the word management, please forgive me, but it is the term that most of the world's familiar with right now. I have other terms that I've made up for it, but that's where we're going to stay. And I want to point out that management also is not the same thing as leadership, but I consider them to be harmonious. In other words, when I said that everybody has a responsibility for managing their own life, they also have a responsibility for leading their own life. You are responsible for leading and managing. I don't care who you are. I don't care what you do. You have that both responsibilities. Let's just, for the sake of efficiency today, use them interchangeably. So, Jim, do I have approval to continue, or has everybody?
You do. We've had Eric. We have some people raising their hands, which is great, but
yeah,
it takes an advanced degree in
Zoom.
Zoom.
We'll save it for Q&A at the end.
Yeah, just throw your stuff in Q&A, please, or that's the best way to go about it. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Oh, by the way, do put questions in the Q&A because we already had a few of them before the program. I would love to answer as many questions as possible should such an opportunity present itself. So, ready to party. Here we go, guys. By the way, why do I get to talk about this? So just for the record, I am a general dentist. And over the course of a little bit more than a decade, I actually built 2 dental groups. One of them made money, the other one didn't. And that means I learned an awful lot. And in the process of doing that, I have had over 2,000 dental team member employees in my career. I know that sounds wild. I never had more than about 260, 70, or 80 at the 280, maybe at one time. So I want you to run the numbers on my turnover percentages inside of like just more than a decade. That means I really sucked at this. And so I can talk trash about myself all that I want because I've experienced every part of what this all means. By the way, since then, you know, I've done a bunch of different things, whether working in advisory boards or consulting other growing dental groups. I coach dentists to do similar stuff in building dental groups right now, and I coach non-dentists in the same thing. And so I have this this gift in my life of being able to see inside other people's companies and see that we're all struggling with the same stuff. So along the way, that original story, I'll be truthful, like it's a strong word to say despised. You could even say hate. I strongly disliked the process of managing people. But something interesting happened. Along the way of figuring it out, along that employee journey, it actually became the exact opposite of what I ever thought. When I created a simple system to be able to get the results that I wanted with the team members I had, I started loving the process of managing people. And then something even crazier happened. When I sold my interest in my company, I decided to move on to a different life of non-dental operations. I missed it more than anything in the world. Last thing I want to point out, when I talked about those 2,000 employees, just so you understand the demographics, the average age of team members inside my companies was 26 or less. I was typically about the oldest person inside my dental companies as I was operating. Like we would tokenly have a few other people of my like borderline geriatric age inside there, right? And so it's kind of interesting to consider that demographic or psychographic sort of analysis. So shall we continue and talk a little bit about why we are talking about this right now at this point in history? And guys, you see what's up here on the screen. Like the reality of what I didn't make up any of these items here. You did. You told me all these things over the years or when I've asked questions about it, right? The challenges you're having is people don't want to stick around. Oh, by the way, call it out in chat if you're struggling right now to find qualified people or good people to fill positions inside your company, because I am hearing that at a rate we have never seen before in history. Even when you get good people in, and it's like a hamster wheel, like, you know, it's like the same old thing over and over again, or herding cats, like where you get 3 of them corralled, then 3 more of them squirt off the other way, or you just aren't getting what you need from a performance perspective out of your teams. And here's the deal. If this is what we're dealing with, I want to talk about what it's costing you right now. So first off, if you've got auxiliary team members, I knew this as a clinician. When I had a team member that was not as qualified, as capable, or as good, my quality of care was less. Can anybody else corroborate that? The quality of the dental care that you as a clinician deliver is lower when you are supported by people that aren't as good. That means not good team member, not good dentistry. I'm gonna be really honest. I actually knew I'm back to breaking files, doing endo. We had an assistant inside our office that me and my other dentists it was the only assistant we ever broke files with. And so we got to the point where like, we can't do endo with this assistant because we know we're going to break files. That's the reality of it. The other thing that's happening is that you're bearing an extraordinary cost of replacing these team members, right? Like the cost of finding somebody new, training them up and getting them in there is getting more and more and more expensive as demand goes up and more people are fighting for these people, right? We are having a massive increase in missed opportunities. So when all of a sudden you have somebody that's newly trained at your front desk and doesn't answer your phones as well, those marketing dollars you're spending to generate that phone call of $100, $200, or $300, and that person answers it and blows the phone call is costing you money. It's also costing you customer service experience. We all talk about how important it is that our patients have an extraordinary and magical experience inside our offices, right? And when we have team members that can't carry the load, our patients don't enjoy it. But that's not even bad enough. How does it feel? How many of you got raising hands or putting it in the chat? How many of you have been living on a team at some point in the past where you were now overstressed because there weren't enough good team members or good quality to go around, right? Yeah. How's that one feel, Scott, right? You're sitting there and you're thinking, man, if we don't get somebody else in here, I'm leaving because this sucks. I'm working twice as hard, right? And then it gets even worse because then when we bring on that new team member, we're like, hey, could you go ahead and get him up to speed? Guess what? You've already got a day job, right? You're already full as a tick with work that you need to do to get done and to keep everything operating. Woo! This is costly, isn't it, guys? By the way, one last thing. Dentists. This is malpractice cases. I need you to know that one of the leading indicators for malpractice claims and for legal issues also with employment, is low quality inside the team. When you've got low online reviews, malpractice carriers see it all the time. They get more claims from companies that have lower Google ratings. Go figure. It's not that surprising. It's the same thing on employees that hate their job. Employees that hate their job are a lot quicker to file claims against a company when they leave. So that's one of the things that I know as a dentist I dreaded the most. I don't know if I should have or not, but I was constantly looking over my shoulder for attorneys, right? Like coming after me for stuff, which is inevitable, but this affects it. Woo, man, guys, that's why it matters right now. What are we going to talk about next? Well, I actually don't even remember what the next slide is. So this isn't working for us right now. And this is everybody's problem, right? This is your problem. Can you see why I talked about how it doesn't matter whether you're the owner, you're the manager, or whether you were the last team member hired? This storm affects you. It affects you in so many ways. This is all of our responsibilities in what we're doing. And the other funny thing, right? Like, what was the first thing I did? I hired an office manager. Do you know what's weird? Who's managing the office manager? Because I certainly don't want to manage anybody. That's why I hired him. Who is managing the manager? The manager deserves to be managed by somebody. Theoretically, it was my responsibility, but I can promise you, I abdicated that responsibility 100%. And the other thing about this inside of our world is that we've chosen to hire this need out. When we had a responsibility for management inside our companies, we said, let's let somebody else do it. That's what the whole human resource industry is. When your dental practice gets big enough, typically what people do is they hire an HR manager to come in and deal with it. Last thing I'll say, and I already went to the next slide, so just act like that slide's not there for 10 seconds. But I got click happy. That's the way I am some days. The last thing I want to say, though, is that one of the biggest failures in the world of leadership and management is that we've built the false belief that leadership and management is top down. Somebody above leads and manages below. Leadership and management is not top down. Never should have been, never should be as far as things operate. It is a bilateral relationship. In other words, the people that are being led and managed deserve to understand and have a say in how that leadership and management's working. The concept that back in the day, they called it 360-degree leadership, right? Or management, where there was communication back and forth so that managers and leaders know how they're doing so that they can improve what's going on. Can you imagine how much better our world and our experience as team members would be if we were really all engaged in effective 360-degree cycles? Woo! So now we're going to come to the slide that I decided to roll to like 5 minutes ago, but I want to point out something here as Captain Obvious, right? We have a picture of dentistry being performed in 1971 and a picture theoretically of dentistry being performed in 2021, but we could probably poke holes in why this isn't 2021 or something like that. Here's the deal on 1971. These were the pictures that most of my dental school professors showed, like on actual slides. They were like the slides and the slide projector, the thing that was a wheel. Like they would go around. look at the gloves this dude is not wearing as he's doing dentistry right now, right? I had pictures of oral surgery procedures like with people with no gloves on. Totally mind blowing.
That was my orthodontist, Eric. I don't even want to
And
date
my
myself.
orthodontist, I know. He loved to give me the one finger pull the cheek back thing. Hey, guys, how much has changed in 50 years? In 50 years, from 1971 to 2021, think about just in these two small pictures, how much is different. And I'm going to ask a different question. Operating the way you operate right now in 2021, in light of everything we now know and experience about infection control, about so much stuff, could you even go back to operating the way they were in 1971? I'm curious. Like, put it in the chat. Could you operate the way that they're operating in 1971? Matter of fact, I know many clinicians right now, dentists, that have never placed an amalgam in private practice, an amalgam restoration. And yet back in 1971, that was like, we were doing amalgams on anterior teeth, I think, like just because it was cool and that's all we had, right? Like that's how much has changed inside of our world. I bring this up because today we're talking about managing people, right? This concept of managing people, what's it called? Human resources, right? Like, where do you think that's from? Where did human resources originate from, right? Did human resources, I would love for you to be pushing it out in the chat. Did human resources, or raise your hand, do you think it originated in the 1970s like this, right? Think it did? 1970s, human resources. Or was it perhaps the 1950s, right? Because a lot of cool things came out of the 50s, right? Like some solid music and other things, right? Maybe it was a little earlier, like the 1930s. Do you think it's possible that human resources originated before World War II? The answer, my friends, is that human resources was developed in the 90s, the 1890s. That's right. The concept of human resources as we currently know it originated in the 1800s. I need you to think about that. If we have in 50 years changed the way we practice dentistry as much as what you're seeing in these two pictures, how has relationships inside of businesses changed in 150 years? Wow. And yet, ironically, most of the original concepts of the human resources industry from the 1800s are what we are still living with inside of our workplaces today. Woo! So let's bring it home to us. Let's talk about dental management and where we live. Let's talk about specifically what it means maybe to be a dental manager, right? And I remember when I was looking for a dental manager, like, well, Eric, what do you need? Well, I need somebody that's really good at treatment planning. I need somebody that can manage and make sure that I don't have too much on my plate and that I have my stack of Post-it notes for who I need to call back later today. I need somebody that can make sure my schedules are full and hold people accountable. I need someone that can manage my payroll or maybe do some of the insurance processing. Yeah, I appreciate all that. But no offense, guys. That was my job description for a manager, but that is not management. Those are skills. Those are hard skills. And you know what else is interesting about hard skills? One of the things when I survey dental teams right now in 2021, and I ask my dental teams and my clients, what are they scared of more than anything? Do you know what comes up a lot? Losing my job to a computer or to artificial intelligence. Have any of you thought about that? Have any of you heard that? Give that one in the chat too. If you have come up against like a fear that perhaps your job's going to be replaced, right? Well, guess what gets replaced by artificial intelligence? These items, these past items. Hard skills are the easiest skills for technology to replace. And I need you to know, I literally know companies that exist or are doing these things right now to replace the need for humans to do it. All of them. And yet, as we look forward and we look at how much has changed since that photo of the 70s, now we have smartphones that are ubiquitous, right? They're with us every portion of the day. We have instantaneous news cycles. We have instantaneous communication. You feel uncomfortable if you leave your smartphone somewhere and you don't have it with you for 15 minutes. when I started practicing, I didn't even know what a smartphone was, and I didn't even have one in the office. Like, it's crazy how quick the shifts happen. Not only that, we are constantly in social engagement with our peers and our family members and our future peers, and actually people we don't even like. We are constantly connected. Teams are telling us now that while we look at what management meant in the past, they're asking for something different in the future. So when we look at millennial psychographics, which is different than demographics, demographics is like how old you are and like maybe some like specific details on race or gender, right? Psychographics talks about how you behave, right? And in our behaviors, millennial and post-millennial generations are saying, hey, I don't want to work like my mommy and my daddy did. Plain and simple. I don't live to work. I work to live. How many of you does that resonate with, right? The concept of the work-life balance, right? Work-life balance didn't even exist. That wasn't even a thing, right? And by the way, look at how different employment was in 1971. In 1971, did you know that the average person barely had more than one job in their career? The goal was you sign up, you work, you spend your whole life there, and then you get a pension, whatever that means, from the company that you've worked your whole career with. Anybody have that as a strategy right now in 2021? Anybody planning to work in the same space for their entire life? And yet, yeah, because I'm not, I sure as crap didn't. And I know you guys won't either. And yet we still have some of that expectation from prior generations. We just aren't talking about, which brings me to the next point. We communicate different. We don't even talk to each other the same way. We text, we communicate in different patterns. We expect different speeds of response. And we also have very different career aspirations. So when we talk about those job changes, I mean, right now, everybody has a plan in some sense for what they want their future to look like that's different than where they currently are. My dad worked in the same companies for 40 years. He didn't plan on moving to another company. He wanted to just ride it out. What a different world. Last couple of things. By the way, could you guys give me a hand raise if management feels like an awkward or a dirty term to you too? Because I hear it all the time. And thanks, guys. Isn't it weird? Why is that? Why is it? And the fact is, millennials, and honestly, no offense, Jim, if you and I were even quantifying each other as not millennials or close to not being millennials, we don't want to be managed. We do not want, nobody wants to be managed. Actually, it's a negative term. It's like, hey, Eric, you got to go manage your kids over there. That means my kids are doing stupid crap, right? And so nobody wants to be managed. What are we going to do about it? As we're getting ready to segue into how we solve this and what we do for you, I call it connecting, measuring, and coaching. That's my CMC approach. That's what millennials and future generations want. They want people to connect with them, to help them measure what they're doing, and to coach them to where they belong. So, little breathing point. Any thoughts there, Jim? Anything that am I doing okay? Are we pacing? Like everybody?
No, we've got some good questions coming in. I don't know if I want to. I don't really want to interrupt your train because I don't think they're super germane to this slide.
We'll save it and then we'll hit it.
We're 32 minutes in.
Cool, killing it, guys. Thank you. By the way, this is a new standing desk for me today. I hope it's going really well for everybody. I haven't tried it yet, but you get a look at my ceiling from my standing desk.
And it's a good way for you to get all that explosive energy out. I like it.
That's what it is. It's like dance around a little bit.
Yes.
All right, guys, one last principle before we get into the details of the CMC approach and how it will change your life. All right. This to me, as I mentioned, I have been coaching executives and professionals in other industries for a number of years. I get great joy from it. The cornerstone of what I do is actually this principle. And this principle is so true for the world that we live in right now. And the reality was for all of our lives, I actually remember early in my career, do you know what I said to my team members? Hey, I know you got crap going on at home. I need you to check your crap at the door, and you need to come in here and you need to give me 110%. Give me your game face because you're on stage, baby. You're on stage when you're in here. We got to be A+ all the time. Guys, that's BS. Do you know why that's BS? Because I have crap in my life. You have crap in your lives. No offense, Jim, Jeff, Dan, everybody else in here. We've all got crap in our lives. And you know absolutely what I'm getting ready to say. And no matter how much you might tell other people to check their crap at the door, your crap comes with you into your journey. When things aren't right at home, it goes to work. And when things aren't right at work, it goes home. Can I get a show of hands on people that feel the reality of this concept, right? Golly. Do you know what? The future, the past generations, the greatest generation, the baby boomers, they lived in a world where they tucked everything under the rug and they didn't talk about it. My father and I were talking about this week. He's visiting for the first time in 2 years, thanks to COVID. And we were talking about how they crammed everything under the rug and they never talked about it. The millennials and beyond aren't gonna take that. This concept of tucking it in and acting like these things don't go back and forth into our homes and our workplaces interchangeably, it's manure. We do not live separate lives, my friends. And millennials aren't going to live in a world where you keep forcing them to try and separate their lives. We have only one life. You don't talk about your business life as separate from your personal life because it is one existence for you. It is what you wake up to at 7 or 8 or 6 in the morning, and it's what you go to bed to, and it's what you dream about all night long, right? So you know what? The more that we live a lie of inauthenticity and try and keep these things separate, the less we solve issues in our businesses and in our homes, right? I'll be honest with you again there too. Like, I've learned over time in building strong teams, my teams around me, when they're seeing that something's not going well for me, they've learned to ask different questions. Like, hey, Eric, is there anything else going on? Yeah, we're having some issues with my son, right? Like, that's life. Do you know what we need to appreciate? Some of the beauty in life is in some of the difficulties, my friends. Like, that's what millennials are realizing. Our current difficulty is the energy and the opportunity for our future best and our future growth and our future opportunity. And that's the way that things should be. Guess what? We can honor that in our workplace, friends. So, your people, they're not broken. I heard that all the time. I probably said that. I said, my people are broken. I'm just not getting what I need. Then I had a point of awareness and I thought, nah, it's not my people. I'm a leader. It's me. I'm broken. I can't get this crap right. No, it's not me either. It's not your people. It's not you. It's a system. And so as I ask about this, I'm curious in the chat, where are people learning to manage? Where are you learning to lead? What is the rule for how you do this? And as you guys are giving your answers in the chat, I'm going to tell you, after polling hundreds and hundreds of professionals and people in the dental industry and people outside the dental industry, what the answers are. It's a book. When I hire new managers, I hand them a book by John Maxwell, and it teaches them how to lead. Or a different book, or no, you should read this book. Or, I just learned through the school of hard knocks, right? Friends, that's not a system. That's not a system. The challenge, the reason we are where we are is we've made this so much more complicated because nobody has given us the system that we need to be able to get it done. So simple, right? And yet when we created a system, the system of human resources, the system that was built in the 1800s for the industrial age. How many of you are running industrial age businesses right now? No, nobody. Right? You're running services businesses in the information age, nothing like the industrial age. We don't make widgets anymore. We make information, and it's freaking incredible, and it changes our lives. That HR system wasn't built for where we are. It wasn't built for the people that we're now employing. It wasn't built for millennials, Gen Y, Gen Z, and Gen whatever the next one's going to be called, because we ran out of letters and we got to come up with something new. And so what are we going to do? What should a system actually look like, right? For how we work with our team members. I have 3 primary components. My third one I break down. Number 1, whatever system we have must be simple. Who here has nothing to do every day? Yet no. I actually make an argument that dental team members, I actually think the single hardest position inside of a dental company is sitting at the front desk, multitasking out the butt. It is a nightmare. I could never do it. Can you have a smile on your face and answer the phone with a smile and make sure you convert that phone call into an appointment at the same time that you're collecting money from 3 different people and smiling at them and asking them to leave a review while you keep the front office reception area perfectly clean from the kid that just tore a magazine into 470 pieces? Thanks. Get that done for me. It's an easy job, right? Yeah, no. Our jobs are complex. Our systems must be simple and easy, or else we aren't going to get to them. And you know what else, though? You don't have time to wait. So item number 2 is that if you want a system to be able to successfully manage and lead people, it has to be effective now, immediately. You can't wait like 6 months or anything like that, or like, well, we'll see after 17 review cycles how this is actually going. We'll measure. That does not work. And so that's what we built. Last but not certainly least, this system has to be different than what the previous world of human resources gave us. We can't do these reviews that are like 18 pages long and all the other stuff that we've had. Can you score this employee on a scale of 1 to 10? Guys, I can barely count to 2 most days. And like scaling on 1 to 10 makes no sense to me whatsoever. So when we build a future focused system, it has to be looking at the behaviors of the people that are coming, that are in our companies right now, and that will be coming into our companies in the future. Not only that, it has to be flexible, because what we know is that change is inevitable and change is happening faster than ever in the world that we live right now. It has to be human focused, not sitting there and saying like, this is how we build a great business. No, is it okay for us also to build and support great people? Right? We all say we want to do that, but will we put our money where our mouth is and actually implement systems that do it? And you know what else? The system has to be consistent and clear. It can't be something that you just do like one and done, or that people don't know what's coming next. We all deserve a world where we know how we're going to be reviewed, where we know how we're going to be engaged, and where we know what our relationships are supposed to look like together. And that, my friends, is the instance of the joyful method. Now, listen, I made this crap up. Me and my team. My team's incredible. They're all really smarter than me. So maybe I just stole the ideas from them, but this is what I used. This is what I developed that changed my life. And I'll be honest with you, like what changed in my life as a result of using this method? Well, I went from hiding from people, from running from my office manager, from being burnt out, from never seeing my family. I woke up before my kids woke up. I came home after my kids went to bed. How many of you have been there? That sucks. That was not the life that I wanted to have. And that was not acceptable to me. And I went from that life in a practice that was humming, doing like almost $2 million. And we thought, oh, this is so great. It wasn't making any money. I went to a company that was doing $30 million, that had almost 300 team members, where I wasn't having to do practically any of it. That's the difference in what a real method is. That's the difference in what we get when we can leverage the power of our people. Can I tell you a side note that I just was reminded of? Do you know what the best part of that was? Is that my people that were in that company went on to bigger and better things. They are constantly growing in their lives. I had team members that started their career. I hired a young lady, her first day out of dental assisting school. She went through and she worked in every position inside of dental companies. And now she is an exceptional consultant and coach for other people inside of 10 years, giving other people the opportunity to grow. Guys, we could talk a lot about the other details of what the joyful method is, but for our intents and purposes today, we're going to only talk about that first thing. We call it the revolution. Oh, isn't that cute? Because it's round. And in the old world of the HR cycle, the human resource industry, they actually used to put this round part at the end, because after you hired people, got them on board, you trained them all up, then you put them through performance management or something like that. I've realized something in working with your companies and with people inside our industry, and that the real issue was that we were waiting till the end to start learning to do a good job with managing our teams. And yet when we did a good job managing our teams up front, guess what I didn't have to do as much? Hire. And guess what else I didn't have to do a lot? Train. When we learned to have good systems on the front end, when we made sure our house was strong first, it made everything else easier. By the way, when I had good management in place, you know why I didn't have to hire as much? Number one, people didn't leave as much, but it was okay when they did. But number two, Good management uncovers future leaders. It uncovers great fits that are waiting inside your company. I thought all the time that like, we don't have anybody that can be a manager here, like that can cover this. We need to go outside our company, find somebody else. Turned out when we started putting good systems for how we managed our teams in place, when we made it simple enough, great managers rose to the top inside our existing company. And they are people you never expected. I actually, as I was departing, I ran some dental lab operations inside my company at one point or another. And it turned out that this young lady that was a lab tech, which lab techs, no offense if anybody here's a lab tech, there's like Homo sapiens humans, and lab techs are like Homo laboratoricus. It's a different species of human being. And so we always assumed that like she would never do anything other than lab. Became an unbelievable manager. Unbelievable. Like honestly, textbook. People you never expect will rise to the top. So what we changed about the system is that we flipped it around. We said, before you go on learning, and I know a lot of you who, like a lot of you have already said you're having trouble hiring, right? Before you hire, if you can get your house in order and have a great system for how you manage, woo, things are going to get really serious. So I told you today, we are focusing solely on the CMC approach: connect, measure, and coach. Oh, say it with me: connect, measure, coach. Great. Well done. So what does it mean when we say, by the way, this is all you need to manage? This is literally it. When we get done today, here's what I want you to do. I want you to put your CMC plan together. And it's very simple. Number one, when we connect, we really are only talking about two things in connect. We talk to our people about being humans, about their lives, right? About who they really are. And then we talk about when, how frequently we're going to be talking to them. That's it. That's what connect means. So when I say that, item one, every team member inside my company had a one-page document of their PCF, personal, career, and financial goals. Now, listen, a lot of people ask the question, and we can talk about it in Q&A, like, is this compliant with HR protocols? It is if they give you the information. And what happens here is, instead of simply saying, here's what I need you to do for my company, we're saying, who are you and what are you doing in your life? Because I care and I want to support it. We also use this to help make sure people were a right fit for where we were going as a company. And we use this because we actually care about our people. Do you actually care about what goes on in your people's lives? Do you care that their career aspirations are to grow to a position that isn't in your company? Or would you rather hold them back and keep them in your company longer to get a retention statistic in, right? I cared about my people, even if they didn't belong with me, friends. That's why PCF goals are so critical. So number one, if every team member inside your company has shared with you those goals and you're reviewing them on an annual basis, boom, that's how you connect with the individual, not just the person that's working there from 9 to 5. Number two, we only have two types of meetings in our business. We do one-on-one check-ins, and we do them every single month or even sooner. And we do what we call quarterly conversations, which is our more formal sort of meetup where we really look at statistics. I'm going to talk more about that in just 1 minute. Why do we do these check-ins? First off, I know what most of you do. You do annual reviews, right? Who does annual reviews? And that's typically the only time that they kind of check in with their people. I know. Hey, guys, this is 2020 calling. How much changed in 1 year for you? Yeah, that's how much normally changes in people's lives. So if we're meeting once a year, sorry guys, you're not keeping up. You're not keeping up with the pace of play and the speed that the world is changing at, or the speed that your people are changing at. These one-on-one check-ins are not complicated. These are, hey Jim, it's Eric. Check-in time. How's everything going in your life? What's going on in your head right now? And is there anything that you need from me to assure that you can be your best, right? These check-ins typically last less than 15 minutes. What I did with these check-ins in my life, I actually did these in the car driving home on a 15-minute drive. I would check in with my executive team members. They knew it was coming, but it was so unbelievably powerful to be able to keep that cadence. This is our opportunity to earn the trust and the respect of the team members that we're with. And it's our opportunity as team members to really share what's going on with our people we report to, right? The last type of meeting that we do, and again, I said we'll go into it in more detail, is the quarterly conversation. Like that quarterly where we are really getting serious about if we're totally a fit and if we're doing what we need to be doing. So item 1, connect. For you to be connecting with your people need to all have shared their PCF goals. Have it written out. By the way, if your people share their PCF goals with you, it's probably the first time in their lives that anybody has shown to actually care about what goes on in their personal life. I'm going to be really honest with you. I can't tell you how many times I had team members cry and they sat there and they said, Eric, like nobody's ever asked me about what goes on in my life. Like nobody's cared. This is the first time any company or anybody has ever cared about what goes on outside of my office, right? So set and schedule those check-in meetings and those quarterly conversations with each and every team member. Just put it in a Google Calendar, do whatever, but don't let these be things that you miss, because this is what it means to manage. Item 2, after connect, we have to measure. What do I mean by measure? I mean that, do you deserve to know in your own life whether or not you're doing a good job? Jim, Jeff, Dan, I bet you guys all have ways of knowing whether or not you're achieving what you need to achieve in Darby or in CareStack, right?
Right.
We all have the right and responsibility to know that we are being effective as human beings in what we do, because we actually do give a crap. Your teams care. But most of the time, we simply don't have the ways for our teams to know and quantify objectively if they're succeeding. So when we measure, I really am talking about this quarterly conversation. This quarterly conversation is the exact same review format every single time. We actually give it to our employees on day 0 of employment, or even before they come in, so they can see how we're going to review their performance. And we review them in 3 areas. Number 1, our team members are reviewed in whether or not they are exhibiting our core values as a company. I could talk all day about that stuff. If you guys want core values program, find me some other time. That's not for today. But your core values are the essence of who your people are, of who the right fit people are. We're determining whether these people actually belong in our company. Number 2, we're determining whether or not these people are in the right seat inside our company, right? Jim Collins said you want to have the right people on the bus. Are they the right people in your company? And you want to have them all in the right seats, the right roles, the right responsibilities for who they are. I put on here GWC, and I don't know how many of you are familiar with EOS. I'm a huge EOS fanboy. I love EOS. EOS uses this term GWC to stand for, do they get it? Which means, do they understand what the responsibilities are for the role that they're in? Do they W, I'm doing a finger symbol for W, do they want it? In other words, now that they know what the responsibilities are for the job, do they actually desire to be doing that job? And I'll be really honest with you, you'll be amazed at how many times people don't want what they're doing or how often it changes. I've been there. Last is the C. Do they have the capacity to do the job? That means the actual skills. Doesn't mean are they smart or not smart. Please don't think that that's the case. Like, ooh, low IQ, you have no capacity. No, it actually is. A good example is GWC, the position of being a dentist. I may have a team member that understands what it means to be a dentist, that wants to be a dentist, but does not have a dental license. Sorry, friends. Currently, you do not have the capacity to do that role, that responsibility. So when we go through and we take this form, the last thing that we put on there is the key performance indicators. It's those measurables. And every single role inside of a dental company can typically be boiled down to 1 to 3 solid objective numbers that if your person in that role is hitting that number, things are going well. Things are working. Everybody deserves to know those numbers. So I want you to imagine, I don't have in this review sheet, I don't have any of these, like rate your performance on a scale of 1 to 5 at how well you feel like you perform. None of that crap. I am simply asking them, listen, actually, I ask them first. They fill it out, and then I fill it out as the reviewer. Number 1, you fill it out. Here's our 6 core values as a company. Are you exhibiting them every single day or not? Yes or no, on or off. We don't play 1 to 5s. We don't play subjective crap or any of that sort of stuff. You either are or you aren't. Do you get want and have the capacity to do the role that you've been asked to do inside this company? Yes or no? Last but not least, did you hit your key performance indicators? Guys, simple stuff. I mean, is there anybody that's looking at this thinking it's really complicated? Because if you are, like, let's get it out. But the reality is, how great would our teams be if all these things were actually just satisfied? This isn't complicated. It's just not stuff we've ever looked at. We made things far more complicated than they ever needed to be. So my team member fills this form out. I fill out this form about my team member. And then when we get together for our quarterly conversation, we only talk about areas where we disagree or where things were off. You don't even have to go through every single item on there. It's super efficient. You'll be amazingly surprised. I did 2-hour annual reviews with team members back in the day when that was the thing. I had some of these things that took like 15 minutes. Do you know why they only took 15 minutes too? Because I've been checking in with these people previously on a monthly basis.
Eric, you have your 2-minute warning because we do have some questions here that are coming in.
Perfect, brother. We are right there. Last thing, guys, after you connect and you measure, you got to coach. Nobody wants to be managed, right? Your job is to coach your team members up, in, or out. This is a scary concept. What I mean, we all have a desire for growth, but for years, when I had somebody that was great at answering phones, all of a sudden I'd move them up into a different position where they weren't answering phones. Dumbest thing ever. Then they sucked at insurance coordinating and they ended up quitting. And I lost my single best phone answerer. Not a smart strategy, Eric. Thank you. So when we talk about coaching up in or out, we ask the question at every review. Let's talk about your growth, Jim. Jim, are you planning to grow up into a different role? That's the key. Inside this company, because the different role is a better fit for who you were created to be and what your career journey is going to look like. Or, Jim, do we need to coach you in the role that you currently are at to show you how you can grow in the role you're at because it's a freaking fit for who you were created to be, Jim? Or Jim, can we be honest and talk about if it's time to coach you out? If your personal career and financial goals mean that we need to support you on your journey to going somewhere else. Wow. How powerful is that concept? That conversation happens every time you guys sit down for a quarterly. And you know what's amazing? Talking to people about leaving your company will increase your retention. Again, conversation for another day. We're tight on time. The last piece here inside our coaching sessions is we're just there to ask questions, powerful questions about how we can support the individual, about how we can be a better company, right? Like that's all that it comes down to. It's not like this massive skill set. It's just asking good questions and then having an idea about how to respond. Final piece, this supports not just our business, but it supports the individual, the personal, career, and financial goals. We're sitting there and making sure that there's still alignment. Like employment isn't about subjugating people to being stuck inside our companies anymore. It's about, can the two of us align for a period of time, the vision of my company and the vision for your life for a period of time where we can do magical and beautiful things together until it's time for one of us to go a different direction. My friends, this is Connect, Measure, and Coach. This is the CMC approach. This changed my life and it's changed the lives of tons of other dental and non-dental industries, companies just like yours. I hope it's simple, but maybe it's not. You're going to tell me that in a moment. Jim, do you know what time it is?
That's great stuff. If you can leave up your contact information because people are asking about that. Yeah, and I know, Dan and Jeff, if I don't give the CE code here in about a minute or two, people are going to show up at my front door. But Dr. Roman, we've got some good questions. So from someone in the audience, they asked about, how do you couch a conversation, or how is it appropriate for us to talk to employees about personal things or personal items?
It's just an ask. Inside of that's a hairy area, but here's the deal. We just can't leave it alone anymore. That's the first thing is we have to remember, let's not let the old HR world of like, no, we don't go there. No, we have to figure out a way so we can ask questions. And what people disclose is a fair place for us to be. So when they disclose information to us, that's fine. And it doesn't mean that we are their life coaches. What we are is we are simply being a source of accountability for them, because here's the deal. Just like I talked about, the crap at home becomes your crap inside the business. And so like a challenge I ran into a lot is my associate dentists, like, they were having stress because of financial issues at home. Like loan payments were coming due, things were coming up. And so guess what that was changing? It was changing their clinical behavior, right? And so these things are all connected. We have to be able to engage and ask. So offer it up and say, is there anything at home that's going on that is affecting, the fact that you just don't feel like you're on target right now? Simple stuff.
Okay. Thank you. And then from Carla and Melissa, and I'll just kind of answer this. They're asking about slides or forms. And I would just ask you guys, you have Dr. Roman's information up.
Yeah.
The best thing to do is just to email him directly.
Yep.
I don't want to put him on the spot in this forum. If you want to dialogue
Super
with
simple.
him.
I love it. Email me directly or hit us up on social media and say, hey, Eric, I want the slides from the program. Like, this is what we do for a living. We actually have a really simple, straightforward program that people sign up for, and it's just online content done. And now you can see your way to a better future. Excellent.
Well, on behalf of CareStack and Darby, Dr. Roman, we thank you for just a tremendous program. One of the things that we look at, everyone's here from the beginning. Not one person has fallen off. So that's a tremendous testament to your topic, the subject matter, your delivery, and thank you to our audience for really great engagement today.
Thank you, guys. That brings me joy. I'm grateful that you guys were all here, and I honor you for being willing to engage in this.